So we can get going. Good morning and welcome to Washington. As our first panel gets set up here, I just want to make a few welcoming comments. I think everybody knows I'm John Callan. I'm that guy there. And the sort of the originator, the organizer, instigator of PostalVision 2020, co-founder of Ursa Major Associates, which is now 15 years in running. My former partner and co-founder of Ursa Major Associates, Mike Comstock's here with me too, and he'll be speaking with you. This is exciting. 6th year. That means we've actually been at this 5 years, and we want to look back a little bit, but mostly this is all about looking forward. And in order to do that, we always need help to put this together. And it takes a lot of work, and we have a lot of people to thank for that. Particularly this year, we are looking ahead into the next 5 years, hopefully, and many more, with particular support from our pillars. We created a new category of sponsors called Pillars of the PostalVision platform. And each of these companies really came on board early in the year, shortly following last year's event, and decided to pony up with funds and in fact, more than that, a lot of advisory support. We have an advisory committee, and we are working the agenda, and you'll find that, in fact, our pillars are very involved actually with helping us construct and will execute the workshop that we're going to do today and tomorrow. So I really want to thank our pillars, there's another conference going on right now in Lisbon, where some of our European friends are and couldn't come here, called Market Force, and we promised each other that we're going to avoid that next year. We've been in touch, and we want to collaborate. We want to share the information and the experiences. Of course, we're a significant partner and have been already of PIP, the Postal Innovation Platform, and Bernard, I won't pronounce his last name anymore. He's told me don't ever try that again, since I've tried about 7, 8 times last year and this year already. But Bernard, our good friend and chairman of the Postal Innovation Platform out of Europe, is here with a lot of his representatives, and we've been sharing the information there. From the bottom up, so to speak. We also have media partners now in Business Insider Intelligence. You're going to have a very interesting presentation again this year from Cooper Smith, but this year in particularly around Amazon Dragon Boat. They've done a lot of analysis there, and that's sort of talk about disruption. We have some interesting things going on there that Cooper will talk about. And exploration is on the sort of the e-document side of the business, is partnering with us this year. They have an event in a couple weeks, and we encourage people to go there. And again, post-Expo, we are partnering along with PIP. In fact, Bernard and I will be chairing the Innovation Showcase in Hong Kong on behalf of PIP and PostalVision 2020 in partnership with post-Expo in late May. So we encourage everybody to participate in as many of these events as you can. In addition, we are very grateful to a lot of our sort of local friends and associations, and I guess I have to look to see them all, but EMA, which is the Envelope Manufacturers Association, National Association of Advertising Distributors, IMAG, those are the international mailers, parcel shippers, and of course Postcom, American Catalog, and NEPM is the pre-sort mailers, and GATA, Global Address. And these associations are helpful at carrying the message out to their membership, and many of you are here, and we very much appreciate that. So I do want to be sure, because there's so many people to thank, that we do that now. And I want to also thank the United States Postal Service for being on board today. Preston Finley will be here. Unfortunately, Emil Desiree is not going to be with us. He's had a personal tragedy in his family, and he's with his family at this point. But Emil has been extremely supportive and has hosted a number of our planning sessions with the pillars and the advisory group at the Postal Service, with Preston and his group too. And they are the strategic planners at the Postal Service. So of all the people who really ought to be working with us and thinking about and talking about the true future of where this ecosystem ought to go. We're really thrilled that Postal Service is very much on board in that way. You might think conspicuously absent is the Inspector General, Megan Brennan, who would be here if she were not going to be kicking off a little event next week of about 5,000 people at her conference, the National Postal Forum in Nashville. And so she's not going to be here. Jimmy Cochran will not. Of course, he was with us last year as a keynote speaker. But we're very pleased, of course, to have Postal Service supporting us, and they need to be with us because we're all in it together. And then I want to thank, of course, our team. I want you to be familiar with these faces. If you need a cup of coffee or a direction to the restroom, please ask any one of our folks here who have really made up a strong team, and I think in our 6th year is really well organized, and we're ready to go. So with that, I just want to also talk about a few of the highlights everybody's got in this wonderful program. Thank you for IMS for printing this for us. And please follow along as best you can. Obviously, there's substitutions, but I do want to note that and some highlights. We have Chairman Taub will be with us for lunch today, Chairman of the Postal Regulatory Commission. We have a very interesting demo from Open Market that you'll see shortly on. We have an interesting demo from a robot, Starship. You may have heard and read about if you've gotten some of our PR. Starship was nice enough to serve beer last night at the sponsor speaker reception. And Gray Hair and PwC have gotten together and done a really interesting workshop process for us. So that'll be kind of exciting, and we encourage everybody to participate actively. And there's a facilitator at each of your tables who will sort of help you moderate that. And then, of course, we all have a reception at the end of the day, and that's when we all want to get together and talk about what we talked about and what we want to talk about next. Tomorrow morning, we'll kick off with Jeff Hazlett, who's the author of Think Big, Act Bigger, and quite an inspiring guy. He was a CMO of Kodak, and he's a former print guy, believe it or not. And he's a host of television, internet television, and was actually a Shark Tank guy and whatnot. So kind of inspiring, and has some interesting perspectives to talk about. We'll review the workshop, and then we box lunch it. We can have a picnic here, or you can take it home with you, or do what you like. So those are sort of the basic details. I don't have to say the cell phone thing. I will say that there is internet, and it's under Pentagon. Let's see, Ritz conference, an underscore conference, and it's URSA, capital URSA, all upper cap, if you want internet access. So let me please go on to really kick off the conference now. We're calling it B2C, and I think everybody knows what that's all about. Last year, in fact, we had John Hagel with us, who is the author of From Push to Pull, or was it The Power of Pull? I always get mixed up on that title. Anyhow, great book, and inspiring thoughts and comments about how much business and commerce and media and communications are moving from a push model to a pull model, enabled by the internet particularly, and this is affecting our business clearly as much as any other. And we're sort of at a very interesting point, I think, in it relative to delivery, because at the very end of the value chain, which is being more pulled than pushed by consumers who are demanding and want everything their way, they don't quite yet have access to exactly how they're going to get it all the time, and how much information they get, and how much information they want to give up. And these are the things we want to talk about. How do we meet the needs of the consumers who are really having this power to dictate how they want to receive things, how we all want. We're all consumers, so we all understand this. With that general theme, we want to follow the entire value chain. And what I always like to do here, of course, is begin with high-level thinking. We want to really reach out there and wait out to the horizon. Let's imagine where we're going and think about what's out on the horizon relative to the next generation. Again, we still don't have a lot of millennials here. There are just not a lot of them employed in the postal business, I guess, yet. But we do have some, and we have some who are obviously in the startup side of things. It's going to be very exciting to hear from them. But it's about the future. And I wanted to just mention and apologize for 1 second. I didn't bring it up here. Quick note. Can I just jump to the stage? The apology is you don't see Jeff Jarvis up here. Jeff has been with us for 4 or 5 of the years, kicked this off in the very beginning. Amazing guy, and it's sort of amazing that he's been so interested and supportive of this, because he's a journalist, he's a writer. He wrote the book, What Would Google Do?, which really was the inspiration to me to say, hey, that's the kind of question we should bring to the future of the postal ecosystem. And early on, he introduced us to Vint Cerf, and Vint had been here a couple times, and a lot of key people in that field, and it's helped us really get out there and think about where things are going. Jeff was, as he says here, I'm so sorry that my day job suddenly required me to go to Germany to debate the future of the internet and journalism, and he is very much involved in media and print versus electronics and privacy and whatnot. A very powerful guy, one of the top speakers at Davos every year. So we accept his apology, because he does this to come to be with us just like everybody does, because he's interested. He's also a professor, full-time professor of journalism at City University of New York. So he says, from the start, I've been a huge fan of what John Callan has built in PostalVision 2020. The place to think, talk, and act on the future of delivery industry, the center for innovation there. I'm only sorry that you will not yet have invented the teleportation that would enable me to be in both places on the same day. Good luck for a great conference. And since it's late in the day and he's still working in Europe, we didn't want to bring him in on a sketchy Skype thing either. So, but thanks to Jeff. Also, I want to say, as things happen and everything's moving quickly, by the time you get anything in print these days, it seems to be a little bit out of date. We have a couple substitutions in addition to Jeff. Tom Blishock from PwC is not with us today, I guess most importantly because he's not with PwC anymore. Instead, and in fact, we're pleased to have Andrew Tipping from PwC and Strategy and, which is the booze merger or acquisition in the strategy side, and Andrew heads up PwC globally in the logistics and postal space. So in fact, I think he's actually more informed about what we're doing and whatnot. But we want to look now very much into the future, and we have 3 distinguished people that I really sought out to help us get out there. And thanks to the OIG, as always, for lots of introductions. I have met Mattia Crespi, who's flown in from Italy. And oddly enough, Italy is a strange place to be flying in from when he's attached to Silicon Valley's Institute for the Future. So Mattia will speak with us, and I'm just going to mention the first three of you by name. Andrew Tipping from PwC, and Wolfgang Hall, whom I met at Post Expo in Paris, was it? And who is with Esri. And if you guys don't know Esri, everybody should, because we probably couldn't walk around these days, couldn't drive if it weren't for Esri, who's in mapping, and that's just my sort of parochial definition. But with that, let me just first of all introduce then, I think Mattia, right? You're going to kick off. And I think that's where we are, isn't it, Brian? Oh, no, gosh, excuse me, sorry. Game has changed, right? This is what we're about, changing the game. I just wanted to reflect, 5 years. I think 5 years ago when we thought this, PostalVision 2020, the 2020 seemed like a long way away. And how many people thought, I know there are a lot of skeptics here, but how many people 5 years ago thought that we would still not have legislation, we would not have reform by this time? It's a pretty desperate situation. It's unbelievable. But of course, the way things are going in our government these days, we all wonder. It's tough anything gets done. But It's interesting to see what's happened. We came into out of PAEA in 2006 was the last law, the current law. Things were still going pretty good. That's why the Congress wanted to rob the piggy bank there, I think, for the pension fund, because there was money to be had. And this is the revenue pattern of what's happened in that time. We see that we peaked up in 2007, 8 with revenue, and recession came, and that really knocked the socks off the business, largely because of advertising mail and marketing dollars, and everything went away. But we've been recovering, and yet some of that recovery is not just due to a better economy, but frankly is due to some price increases. And we have some other things coming soon that, in the way of price reductions, which is going to throw another ripple into this. But I just wanted to take a look at where this all comes from, because the big challenge to me in this is a changing game. We're changing from a mail-based business to a parcel-based business, and we know that. And not entirely from one to the other, but because you can't, but because we absolutely cannot move completely out of mail unless we figure out how to get a lot more money out of parcels. But what's happened, and this is volume, is we know that in the yellow line, in the first class single piece, there's not a lot of volume, but a lot of margin you'll see there. And that's what we used to do. Remember, we used to write business letters and put stamps on them and use postage Pitney Bowes meters to send letters. That's the single piece, and there was a lot of margin in that, and with basically paying bills. That was high margin stuff. Anyhow, that's gone away very rapidly. First class mails, the red line, as we know, is declining, and it continues to, but at a slightly slower rate. Standard mail is sort of holding its own now, and because it's a good marketing product and it works. And packages, you hardly see a blip, because that's really what the story is. It's a very, very little bit of the business when you come to volume, because the whole network was built on volume. But when you look at the revenue side of it, it's a very different story. Still, first-class mail is where all the margin is, and still where most of the revenue is. Standard ad mail provides the meat and potatoes, frankly, to keep the engine driving. First-class single-piece mail revenue is going away, as we described, and package mail is increasing, and in terms of revenue, because obviously you get a lot more per piece than you get out of from a letter. So what's this all about? What we want to do, I think, in this next day and a half is really talk about what is this game? What is the Postal Service game all about? And why is it changing? We think we understand that, but we really want to better understand the forces, the consumer piece of this. Shall we change the rules of the game? First of all, when we understand what the game is, I mean, there's a lot of push-pull there in terms of universal service obligation, and in fact, even at the presidential level, Bernie Sanders is one who says, yeah, we have the obligation to do everything for everybody. But wait a minute, how do we pay for that? Well, that's easy, taxes. But that doesn't necessarily work. So should we change the rules of the game, or should we establish some sort of a new game? Big questions. We're not going to answer them all now, but we wanted some ideas.